Hey, it's Sally Steele, and welcome to my show. Now, this show is a new show that I'm doing, and on my social media, everyone is always saying, "Hey, we love all your adventures and tell us more and your stories." And believe me, I have 40 plus years of just adventure and crazy things and adventure that has happened in my life. And I decided, well, I'm going to start telling them. So that's what this show is, all my crazy life. So here I am just throwing my personal life out into the world, things you would never know about me, and you're going to find out. Now, this story is one of my Motley Crue stories, but before we get to the Motley Crue part, there's a story that prefaces it. And I'm going to tell this because it just leads up to it. So you may not want to hear the story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. I used to have a jewelry business, and I went up to Sturgis, and I did very well up there for a few years. And at the time that I went up, I was making a transition from Nashville to Georgia because I was leaving my crazy hillbilly husband. And I decided, well, let's part as friends. Come on up to Sturgis while I'm doing my show, right? So he came up to Sturgis, and he was drinking a lot, and it was terror for all 3 days at the campground, let me tell you. So the last day, we're getting ready to leave, and he starts giving my jewelry out to this woman, just giving it to her. And I got mad. So I got on the road and I left. I was so angry. I got on the freeway and I'm like, I better go back and get him. Wrong choice, because I pick him up and he's really been drinking. So he gets in the car and we start getting on the highway, and I have my sunglasses on, I'm driving, and he just reaches over and punches me right in the sunglasses, right in my eye. And I'm like, my eye. And I pull my sunglasses off. I'm trying to get the glass out of my eye and everything, and it's hurting. I could barely see. And he throws the faceplate of the tape player in the car for the music out the window. So I go back. I'm trying to find it on the side of the freeway. So we start driving, and he's like telling me, "Oh, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you." He's going like this. So anytime we made a stop, he would take my keys because he thought I was going to leave him. I guess it was smart on his part because I was trying to get away. And my eye is swelling up. I was terrified as I was driving. But I had an angel on my side. It was my daughter. Because before I left, my daughter had made this beaded Disney donkey thing, and I thought it was pretty, and I really loved it. So I put it on my rearview mirror. So we're driving, and he's drinking up a storm over there. Of course, I wasn't drinking, never have. And these policemen pull up, and they pull up alongside as they're kind of looking, and then he's like, "Don't you make a move! I'm gonna kill you!" So I didn't say anything. I'm just driving straight ahead. And then they pull us over. And he says, "Excuse me, ma'am, but we pulled you over because you are not allowed to have anything hanging from your rearview mirror in the state of South Dakota." So I was so glad I got pulled over. So they gave him like the breathalyzer test. They were up there in my car. And I went back to the car with the police, and I told him what's happening. I go, "Listen, he's beaten me. I don't want him to go with me anymore. He's threatening me. You got to help me. Get this guy out of my life." So they start asking me questions, and I start telling them, I go, "But you've got to be careful because he is going to, like he does, he's going to do something to make it like not happen that he gets taken away." Because like he had been like, I called the cops on him once at my house when he was hurting me, and he ripped his clothes up and called the cops, said I was beating him. So I knew he would try to pull something. So I pleaded with him, and they said, "Well, how do we know that if we take him, you won't just come back and get him?" And I said, "Sir, if you take this man out of my life, I will never see him again for the rest of my life." And so they thought about it, and they went to the car, and they said, "Excuse me, sir, but this is her registration, this is her car, and she requests that you do not go with her any further." And he's like, "Oh, come on, baby, it's all right, there's no problem here." I'm not good with my Southern accents anymore. So they decide he's caused problems. And they go, well, we got to divide up his stuff because my stuff is in the back seat. And I think he had like a small bag, but he started saying like, well, this suitcase is mine. And then he opens it and it's all these women's bras and things like that. And he go, well, that's my grandmother's, so we got stuff spread out all over the highway. And I could tell they're getting frustrated and they're going, listen, we're not going to handle this anymore. Either you guys settle it or you take it. Or I go, oh, please, don't leave me. Just take him with you. So I finally convinced him. I gave him just whatever he wanted, right? And we got in the car and I start to drive away. And then I hear this, ow, 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 get her. She ran over my foot. And I stopped, I froze. And I heard like the best words I think I ever heard in my life, which was, get up off there. We're not going to buy this. Just get up right now. You're not hurt. And I looked at the policemen and they said, go, go, go. So I drove through the night with these beautiful stars all around in South Dakota. And I'm trying to get to the hotel in, I think it was Nebraska. And I just didn't stop. I drove all through the night. And I remember I was listening to Gypsy by Stevie Nicks over and over and over because the faceplate got broken and it was only playing these Fleetwood Mac songs, side 2 or 1, and Gypsy, and that really fit the mood of my escape, right? So I fled back to Georgia and I didn't go back, pick him up, never saw him again. And we got divorced. Now, before I left for Sturgis, I had gotten like this part-time job, like signing people up for, sweepstakes and concerts. And I said, well, I'll work that one, Motley Crue, because Motley Crue was my whole life through the 80s, right? So I go, I want to see Motley Crue, it was 1999. I was lost during the 90s. The 80s were over. It was just miserable. But I thought, well, I'll connect with my past and I'll go see Motley Crue. I'm going to the Motley Crue concert. I got a black eye. I had like on a red shirt, for to sign people up and everything. And, I was all excited to see, wow, here's Motley Crue. And I remember it was starting to rain and, my hair was getting wet and I didn't have enough for a Motley Crue t-shirt, but somebody gave me $1 in line and I was able to get it. And so at the end of the concert, I just blended in with the crowd and I put the shirt over my work shirt. And I went up to the front row. And it was a moment in time that I will never forget. So what happened was I was up there in the very front and I saw these really pretty girls. They must have been strippers in Georgia. They were flashing vents and they had their white furry things and they were all sexy and beautiful. And I just looked at them and Nick's pointing at them and laughing. And I'm just standing in front of my idol, Nikki Sixx. So these girls are flashing vents and I'm just looking down on the ground I am a loser. Here I am. I'm a single mother with a 10-year-old. I'm a drowned rat with a black eye going through a divorce, and I have nothing to live for. And I just look down and down and down. And, Nikki Sixx was standing in front of me, and he's looking down, and I look up, and he's smiling. And I'm like, oh, who's he looking at? I'm looking around. I go, well, I thought he was, just smiling at those girls that were there, but there was nobody around. So it was just me and Nikki, and they were playing Home Sweet Home. Now, Nikki comes to the very edge of the stage, and he starts looking at me and getting closer and closer. And then I just looked up, and he's right in my face looking at me. And it's the end of Home Sweet Home, and the spotlight in the arena is closing in on us. And Nikki reaches down, takes my hand, and very tenderly puts his bass guitar pick in my hand. And it was like an epiphany or something. All of a sudden, I connected with my past. I remembered who I was from the 80s, and I was just all back in love with Motley Crue again. And I just said in that moment, I go, I'm going back to the West Coast. I'm going to go be a part of Motley Crue somehow. So over the next weeks, my roommate, best friend, she's going crazy because I lost my job at signing people up, and I had a paper route, and it was like I all I did with my earnings from the paper route was buy Motley Crue memorabilia. I cut out Nikki Sixx's face and I put it in all my wedding pictures over the groom's face. So it was like every day I'd go to the mailbox. Oh, I got my Tommy Lee buttons. Wow, look at this. Oh, look at this. I knew I was going to be headed back to the West Coast. It was just a matter of when. And this story is leading up to my next story, which is when I went out to audition for Motley Crue. Now, you're not going to want to miss this story. It's coming up. I'm going to do another episode in about 2 weeks. So make sure you tune in because this is a great one. In fact, my friend Jerry Gittleson said, "Why did you never tell me this? This is the greatest story I've ever heard. You're completely crazy." Well, I don't know if he said that. So thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you for tuning into my first episode of my crazy life. And I've got so many more things to tell you. You will be laughing at some of these shows. But tune in, and I'll see you next time. Sally Steele signing off on my crazy life. See you next time.